What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my Bookish world. I'm Alex, and today I'm going to be doing an update on my 5-star predictions for 2020. So these are all the books that I decided last year that I was going to give 5 stars in this in the year. I think I gave 2 of these 5 stars. So yeah, let's just get to it. It did take me a minute to figure out which books I was planning on. So yeah, let's just get into it. So the first book I have on here is Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nagan. This is the second book in the Girls of Paper and Fire series. And I gave this book, I didn't give it anything. I DNF'd it. I think earlier, sometime this year, was when I was still in school before, the pandemic hit. I was reading this book and I was almost 100 pages. I almost had 100 pages left. And I was just bored out of my mind. And I put it down and I was like, maybe I'll pick it up one day. And then I got rid of it and unhauled it. So yeah, I DNF'd this book, which kind of makes me sad, but like also I was really bored. So yeah. The next book that I said that I was going to give 5 stars is Ballots of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, which is the prequel to the Hunger Games series. So this book follows, I didn't even say what Girls of Storm and Shadow is about. You know what, it's fine. Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes follows Snow before he is president, when he is around the high school age, 17, 18, and how he acquires a power to become what we know in the Hunger Games. I gave this book 4 stars, which actually was not too bad and not too off from what I thought I would give it. There were just some things about this book, honestly, it was pretty slow. So I had some issues with that, but overall, it was pretty good. And I don't know, my love for the Hunger Games, I just couldn't imagine giving it less than 4 stars, Yeah, so I enjoyed it. Definitely not my favorite, and definitely not one of my favorite Hunger Games books by far, but I still really enjoyed it. And the next one on here is Roomies by Christina Lauren. This book follows a girl who meets this guy who I believe, I can't even remember, who, I read this back in August, who basically I believe she marries this guy to save him from being deported, and they have to room together, and it's about their romance. I give this book 4 stars. Yeah, 4 stars. Although at this point, I think it probably should have been more like a 3 or a 3.5, just because I don't remember much of it. It wasn't a bad book. I liked the romance and all that, but it just wasn't something that jumped out at me as something that I'm going to remember for a long time. So yeah, there was nothing wrong with it, just not my favorite thing overall. And then the next book that I decided on was Love in Other Words, which is another Christina Lauren book, and this book is a second chance romance, which I haven't read second chance romance before, so I was excited. I was trying to get through most of the Christina Lauren books this year. That hasn't happened. Life. Anyway, so I gave I DNF'd Love in Other Words. I apparently am not into the idea of a second chance romance because, yeah, I could not, after the first maybe 1 or 2 chapters, I was done with it. So, hi, bless you. Hi, sweet girl. You wanna come on my lap? You wanna come up? Oh, my baby. Okay, but you gotta be good. Can't keep out. But like I said, I DNF'd this. I don't know if I'm into second chance romance or if I just was not in the mood for, get out of there, or if I was just not in the mood for reading. I might give it a chance in the future, but as of right now, I have no plans to read it. And the next book on my list was The Unhoneymooners, also by Christina Lauren. I think this is the last Christina Lauren book on here. And that, again, I was planning on giving 5 stars to. That's the entire point of this video. So this book follows a girl whose sister is getting married, and she really hates the best man, I think. And the best man well, her and the best man are the only ones that do not eat the food at the wedding, and everybody else gets sick because of like food poisoning or something. And so they have to take the honeymoon together, and it's that kind of romance. This wasn't that bad. I know a lot of people had issues with it, and I believe it came out in like 2019. But I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I actually thought that the deal breaker of the story was a little bit more realistic than in some of them, and the conflict. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and yeah, that's it. It's a 4 stars. Wasn't my favorite, but it was pretty good. And the next book that I read was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. If you don't know what this book is about, I honestly don't know where you've been. This book follows the first son of the United States and the Prince of Wales. And basically something happens at this wedding where they destroy this cake, and so they have to do like a press thing, I can't remember the word, and stop licking the book. And make it, no, don't chew on that. Don't lick it. Stop it. She's licking one of my books. And so they have to pretend to be best friends, and they end up striking up a romance. And yeah, it's as good as everyone says it is. I gave this 5 stars. It's one of my only 5 stars. I loved it, and I'm really excited to hopefully reread it in the future. It's definitely not as smutty as I was expecting it to be, but I think that's okay. It was just a very sweet romance, and I look forward to what Casey McQuiston writes in the future. Stop licking my books. And then the next book that I said I was going to give 5 stars is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book, I'm trying to think of what I gave it. I think I gave it a 4 stars or 4.5, so it's very close to a 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. This book follows Imani, who has a child, and she is in her senior year, so she is trying to balance work life and taking care of her daughter. But she has this dream of becoming a chef. And it's about that, and it's a really enjoyable book. I really fell in love with Elizabeth Acevedo's writing this year, and I really recommend her books. They're always very diverse, and it's just very good. The next book was also by Elizabeth Acevedo, and that was The Poet X. I did not give this a rating because I read it for school, which I was reading. I had a YA like fiction class that I was taking this year, so I didn't rate any of the books that I read for that class, and I read quite a few. But I did really enjoy it, and I do really recommend it. It was my first book by Elizabeth Acevedo, but I love it, and I love the fact that it was told in verse. And then the next book that I have on here, the second to last, is The Burning Shadow, which is the sequel to The Darkest Star, book 2 of the Origin series. I gave this book 4 stars as well. She's a biggie, not as big as some of the books that I've read this year, but pretty big. So I thought I was going to give it 5 stars just because I love this author, and the first book was kind of like, was also a 4 star, so I was like, obviously, I'm going to give this book 5 stars, because it can only get better. And you know what? I just don't think the love interest and the romance in here is my favorite of her books, which is fine because I love her books and I still really enjoyed it. Like I said, I just gave it a 4 stars, which isn't a bad rating whatsoever. And then the last book on here, we're ending off on a good note, is One True Love by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a book about a girl who loses her first love, her husband, believes him to be dead. And so she falls in love with another guy a few years later, and then her husband that she believes to be dead comes back and is actually alive. And so it follows the story of that and her trying to make the decision of who is her one true love, and can she have more than one love? And I just loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I think I've read 4 books by Taylor Jenkins Reid so far, and I've given every single one of them 5 stars. So safe to say she's one of my new favorite authors, and I'm very excited to read more by her. So that's it for this video. As you can see, I didn't do the best job of deciding what books I was going to give 5 stars, but I did a lot better than I feel like I have in the past. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Follow my social media. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.